Hello and welcome to the Halo Forge Epidemic. This is Oakley HiDef and I'm here to bring you the first part in a series of videos concerning Halo Forge tips and tricks. Now Darth Human is going to continue producing his videos regarding minigames and the mechanics behind them, and I'm going to bring you videos focusing on the maps I like to build, namely Infection, Invasion, and Aesthetic maps. So this first series is going to be how to build an invasion map, and I'm going to run through maybe 6 or 7, maybe even 8 videos showing the creative process. I'm going to be building the map a couple steps ahead of these videos, and I'll be bringing you installments of how I create the map. So we're going to cover a variety of things, including smart spawning, smart weapon placement, balance. We're going to do setting up the objectives and game type, and along the way I'm going to also be showing you guys Forge tutorials on aesthetic pieces, and those are going to be ranging from anti-aircraft guns to satellite stations to bunkers to maybe even an aircraft carrier. So there's going to be a host of things for you guys to learn. So this is going to be the first video, and I'm going to show you guys how to make the invasion map. Again, this is part 1, and we're going to be focusing on location and preliminary defenses, so stay tuned. Okay, so the first thing you want to do when you're starting up an invasion map is make your map in the appropriate location. So as many of you might have seen, I made a bunker complex, and for that map I knew I wanted an underground base and an elevator shaft dropping down, so I built it in this area here, which is Alaska. So that was appropriate to the setting of my invasion game. So you really need to choose your location based on that. So for this next game, I want to make sure that it's pretty epic. So I'm going to build on this island in order to make it a big sort of fortress, and the island lends itself to being already a pretty good fortress. It's got 2 ways in by foot, 2 land bridges, and this cave right here. So I think this will make a perfect place for a big invasion game, because you can have people on foot, land vehicles, and air vehicles all at once. So once you choose a location, you want to make your first line of defense. So I'm going to choose this beach here. And there you go. So I built my first wall. As you can see, it's pretty simple to build. Just inclined Coliseum walls, a brace large on the top, and then platforms and a block to top it off. So it's very important that you make your first wall very low to the ground. You don't want to make a huge wall, and that's the main problem I think people have with Invasion, is they tend to make a Great Wall of China. Now that's terrible for gameplay, because Invasion is a game of progression, and you don't want any one part of your map to hinder gameplay and hold people up. So yeah, this is the first wall, and I'm going to be building a second wall over on the right. So there you go. It's simple to make. You make a small entrance here, and there you go. So again, not too high, keep it low. Here over on the right, you can see I've left some gaps that can easily be covered up with rocks, but another thing you can do is throw down some platforms, as I'm going to be doing shortly. So there you go, one there and one over here, and you'll see why I've thrown those down. Another thing to be mindful of is sight lines. You want to keep those relatively open so people can get shots off, but you want to provide a decent amount of cover. So again, that's why you want these low walls like this here, because you can hide behind them, but you can also easily climb them. So here you go, on the left I've built another low wall, but this time I've made it look like a pipeline, and the whole idea behind that is to have sort of an implied design feel to it. You always want your player to think there's more to the map, so I add things like this in to make the reader, or not the reader, the player think that there's more to the map. So that's always very important. And another thing that I'm going to do is throw on some aesthetic pieces to these platforms here and here. So you'll see those spawning shortly. You may have seen these in Bunker Complex, but they're going to be anti-aircraft guns. So there you go. Here's one over here, which presumably shoots bullets. And the one on the right is supposed to be a type of rocket launcher anti-aircraft gun. So it's important to build these because, well, for a variety of reasons. I'm going to talk about another thing people tend to do wrong, is when they build their first base, as I said, they build a huge wall, so you don't want to do that. You want to keep your low walls to keep gameplay flowing. Another thing they tend to do with their walls is make a lot of defenses, so they'll throw down a ton of turrets, they'll give the defenders a tank, they'll do all this to try and make the base seem imposing, But while you're doing that, it does cripple gameplay. So what you want to do is find a way to make your base seem imposing without affecting gameplay. And so that's why I created these aesthetic pieces, because it makes your base look like a fort, it makes it look imposing, but again, it will not affect gameplay. So each of them is about made out of about a dozen or so forged pieces. This one here costs about $410, it's not that much, and you can use it on any type of map. Invasion is great. You can also use an infection if you're trying to make like some sort of military base. You can make a couple of these, have them sort of broken down, etc. You can make it for Slayer games. You can basically throw these on any type of map. So here you go, here's the basic one. It's made of a variety of pieces, as I said. This second one I made in a couple minutes. What I did was I removed the blocks and the antennas on the side, threw on some decorative cover pieces, top and bottom, and on the left and the right I added 4 columns to make the rocket pods. So there you go. It's really not that hard to make. But just if you guys want a sort of a tutorial, I will be showing you guys shortly how to build this one here. So what you want to do is immediately set your rotation snap to something simple, like 45 degrees. Then when you're going to build something, I generally start with the base as you saw me spawn earlier. So what you want to do is have a platform extra large, throw that down wherever you want it. So I'm going to put this just here for the purpose of demonstration. And now what you're going to need is are 2 1x1 building blocks. So there's one of them, here's another. Then you're going to go into decorative. You're going to need 4 of these antennas, and those will be obviously the sort of the gun parts on the wings of the anti-aircraft gun. Then you are going to go down to the bottom and grab 2 teleporter frames. Then after that you want to go back out to scenery, barricades, and barricade large. Now make sure when you're putting these down, you set them to fixed or phased, that way they don't just fall down. So there you go. These are all the materials you're going to need. So now I tend to start with first throwing down the platform, and then I grab these barricades and I float them over on top of the platform. You can look from up here, you want to make sure you're centered, and the height just about like this, about the same distance, sort of the width of this barricade, you want it that far off the ground. So I'm going to grab the second one and I'm going to bring it over. So what you want to do is put these together in the middle, so kind of sandwich them, and you can either use coordinates or kind of freehand it to get them like that. So you want to put them together just to make sure they're at the same height and the same angle. So now what I'm going to do is start separating them just about this much on either side. So I'm going to shift this over too, and then I'm going to tilt it back 45 degrees if it'll let me. So sometimes it freaks out and you got to do 15 degrees just so to fix that. So there you go. You have these two here separated by just a little bit of distance, and I think actually this piece here got, it got turned a little differently, so let me fix this quickly. So I'm going to realign these again, drop it down, and then I'm going to move it out. In terms of width, about this much is good. So I'm going to set my rotation back to 45 degrees. I'm going to grab this block, and the blocks you basically want to jam inside of these barricades. So you drop it about like this. You want the gray triangle here sticking out like that, so it fits sort of in that little niche. And then what I'm going to do is grab the second one, spin it to the same angle, drop it to the same height, and again I'm going to put them together like this to make sure they're at the same height and angle. Then I'm going to slide it over, making sure this triangle is just about in place. So I want the gray triangle to be just like that. Next step is going to be to grab these antennas, and then you just, it's easy, you flick them once so they're at 45 degrees, make them stick out kind of like this, grab the second one, drop it down, and you want to take a look at it from the side angle, just to make sure they're kind of at the same angular height. Like you can see here, they're both kind of lined up at this 45-degree slope. So that's good. And what you want to do is grab your second one, spin that around, or your third one, spin that around, and then you kind of want to drop it. Make sure it's sort of at the same height as the other ones. You're going to drop that down a bit. Grab the other one and do the same thing. So there you go. And again, take a look from the side and the back. Make sure it's at the same kind of slope. There you go, that looks good. Then you're going to grab your teleporter frames. So you want to flip this one 45 degrees like this. You want the back plate hanging out like that. Then you're going to go ahead and sort of stick this right here in the back. Then the next step is you want to grab the last one, grab that, move it over, and then I tend to sort of place it in the middle and I lift it up a bit just so you get some overlap. As you can see, this is kind of floating, so I'm going to move the platform up, and you want to lift it just so it's kind of overlapping on the platform at the bottom. I'm going to slide it over so it's in the center, both ways. And there you go, you have your first anti-aircraft gun, and it's relatively simple to make. Feel free to rewatch this video if you want to learn how. So that's simple. And then as you can see over here, you have the other anti-aircraft gun. So what I'm going to do if I want to build that is simple. You just delete the things on the side. Then what you would do is, let's see, you go to structure, decorative, then you want to go to covers. I'm not going to do this whole thing, I'm just going to show you generally. What you would do is like have a top part, a bottom part, and make sure it's at the same 45 degrees again, like that. And then what you do is you stick the sort of missile pods on the edges. So to make a host of different guns, it's really not that hard. You use the same teleporter frame bases, and then you throw on whatever type of weaponry you want on the side or the front. So there you go. And that's about it for part one. So what we've covered is the initial defenses. You want a low wall, and you want aesthetic defenses. You don't want to make your first phase too imposing, so use these different techniques to add to gameplay and balance. Later on, if enough of you start watching these videos and you guys really like it, I will make an episode dedicated to a gun show, which is where I'll be building about a dozen of these different turrets, ranging from about this size to something about maybe 10 or 20 times larger. So I'll be doing a gun show. So hopefully if you guys subscribe to the Halo Forge Epidemic, you guys will be able to see that. So that's it for episode 1. Episode 2 will be released soon. I've actually got all the footage and everything done, so we'll be bringing that to you guys in due time. Alright, thank you. Signing out.